Hi everyone, this is Bethany Barker and I want to welcome you to my course and to my module. So today we're going to be looking at Module 1, which is an overview of how to use Carmen. Before I get to the actual module, I wanted to point out a couple of things about my course and how I've laid it out here. I let the students know in the welcome that they're actually going to have 2 weeks to complete every module. There's no real time limit for each of them. As you'll see, this is very much self-paced. And they're even welcome to go after the 2 weeks, but after the 2 weeks it's no longer going to be monitored. So I let them know this here on the welcome page, and then they've got a calendar on letting them know when to start the new modules. They'll also be sent an email reminder and a little message between modules as well. So going on to Module 1 here. Module 1 is all about Carmen and how to use Carmen. And I start, this is the instructor view. From the student's perspective, the only thing they're going to be able to click on in this module is this, the first Module 1 Carmen, which is my learning guide area. All of the other things on here have release conditions, so all of the release conditions need to be met in order for each of these next items to open. So they'll see it kind of like a checklist, they're just not going to be able to open anything except for this learning guide. So they have a very clear way of getting to everything, and also a layout of what's going to be coming next. So in this section, I let them know what our learning objective is. We're going to be learning how to use Carmen. And I give them a few reasons of why they want to use Carmen and why they're going to need to, one of which being that they're going to need to use it for the rest of this orientation. So these are basic skills I point out to them from a student perspective. And then I wanted to point out that these are kind of our additional resources that I have available to them. Carmen, they're required to take the UCAT teaching orientation. There's a Carmen session there, so they can choose that as one of their electives if they're interested. They can also take some classes from the Digital Union and some online tutorials, and I've listed a link here for them to sign up for those offerings. I don't have a link to sign up for the teaching orientation as of yet. I will probably include that as soon as that's available to me. So kind of give them a fun little way to get started and instructions on what they need to do next. So they click on each activity as it pops up and as it becomes available, they read the instructions and then complete everything that it asks them to do. So in Module 1, let's go back here. The first thing they'll be asked to complete is a quiz. It's a pretty easy quiz. It's things like, what graduate program are you entering into? They should be able to complete it pretty easily. It might even make them laugh, I hope. And then once they've completed it correctly, trying to scroll down here, they'll be able to move on to the Dropbox posting. So they do need to get a 100 on the quiz, but they can take it as many times as they need to, and then the Dropbox will open. So they have to write a brief paragraph about what makes them the most nervous about starting the graduate program here at OSU. Hopefully, because this is what I'll be doing this summer, I should be able to answer each of them and kind of give them some reassurance, and then also maybe build some of this into the later modules that we're going to be working on. So next then is the scavenger hunt post. This is actually where I'm having them introduce themselves. I think it's kind of fun to do it as a part of the scavenger hunt rather than just a flurry of emails or anything like that. It's right up front, it's in the beginning, and this lets them to acquaint themselves with the message board, and the message board will remain open. I let them know that in the next announcement, so that way they can see, they can continue conversations that they have going on the message boards, and I'll also direct them to some Facebook pages and places like that that they can connect to current students as well. So the final thing that they need to do is the scavenger hunt survey. And in that survey, really all it is just a couple of questions that allows us to see whether this was helpful, whether it was not, what it is that we can do to improve this, since this is the first year for this. So These assessments are all low stakes. We don't have any high stakes assessments for this because it is just an orientation. We just want them to become acquainted with the system and kind of play around for a little while. So our next thing that we have here that will finally open up after they've completed it, or after they've completed the scavenger hunt, is a congrats page. So it's their next kind of learning guide. I've chopped it up so that way it's not too much information all at once, and it kind of gives them the information I want them to have in the order that I want them to have it. So what this does is it kind of goes through some of the last tabs, and I'll scroll back up here, a little bit of the last tabs that we haven't gone through. So what the activities do, people, grades, the library. And then we finally land on help. And in the help, I'm asking them to do a systems check. This is really for their own good to make sure that everything that they're using is compatible with Carmen. So this will help them now, and it'll also help them when they get on campus and they have no idea why something's not working in Carmen. And then I also let them know from an instructor point of view, since this is a graduate teaching orientation, it's a good practice to have your students run this system check if you do plan to use Carmen in your class. So then, last but not least, I'm having them explore a little bit of the Carmen help option. This is letting them know basically where Carmen tech support is and what they can do to look up things that they want to know in more detail with Carmen. So what they need to do is find something they're interested in, look it up under the help, and then they're going to take a screenshot or copy and paste some of the content and post it in that discussion board. Then they title the post with the topic they looked up, and hopefully they can look at one another's posts and say, oh, that's actually easier than I thought it might be, or I think I want to be able to use that. Hopefully just kind of, like I said, a way for them to explore a little bit, become acquainted with the help feature, so that way when they do get here to campus and they're really stuck on something, they can say, oh, I know how to use Carmen Help. So they're informed that the completion of this ends the first module, and they'll receive an announcement by email. So to kind of cover any of the bases they might not have covered here, there are opportunities for them to assess themselves. However, they don't need the higher stakes. The information is presented in a pretty ordered way with the release conditions, so they're not going to be able to open something until after they've completed every item. And they also need to know that while this is not a required orientation, they are informed that with the scavenger hunt and with these release conditions, they're not going to be able to open the next thing until they've completed the final one. This way we don't get into something later on where they haven't been able to open something or they don't know how to post something that they're going to need to. And so, sorry, screen dropped here. So the learning guide, it should be pretty clearly marked. It's going to be the only thing they're going to be able to open up, so they shouldn't have any problem seeing that that's what they need. And the chosen tools and media supporting the learning objectives and activities. I know there are a lot more tools out there. For these purposes, I want to keep it really simple. These are going to be probably busy people. I assume they're probably going to be working or having internships over the summer, getting ready for graduate school. And this is just kind of a simple orientation, and especially this module, it's really just focused around Carmen, so I want to keep it here on Carmen and not have too much more for them to do. So everything should be pretty clearly explained, and they do have a list of some additional resources. I even point out how they can get to the library through the library site, and that we have our own librarian. So hopefully they should have a pretty good overview of Carmen by the end of this. And once they finish this module, our next module will take them on to a little bit of information about our department and kind of orienting them to the people in our department and the things that they'll be asked to do as a graduate teaching associate. So this is a good warm-up for them and a good way to hopefully get them kind of started and an interactive activity for them. If you have any questions for me, please either leave a note on the discussion board or email me at barker.332. I'm happy to answer, and I look forward to seeing all of you at our next synchronous meeting. All right, bye!